How many times have you come across a 99 overall in your career legacy? Not too often, if ever, I would assume. Have you ever wondered how dominant they would be, especially if they played all 4 years in college? Today, we're going to be following the career of a 99 overall freshman center at Arizona State. Knowing his position and school will play a big part in how he performs, I made another 99 overall, this time a point guard for Grambling. I made sure to even out the coaches with an A- grade around the board. I also made sure to turn off player transfers and player leave early to ensure we could see the whole career of these 99 overalls play out. Coming into their freshman seasons, I was already eager to see these two face off against each other. So, I have them scheduled pretty early this season. And so after simming their first few games, these guys were already looking like studs, with Yerp the center averaging 32, 9, and 4 blocks, and Yerpis the point guard averaging 35, 14 rebounds, and 4 steals per game, with an insane 62-point performance, which is going to bring us to their first career matchup. And to be honest, this game was really boring. Neither player really showed out, but we did get to see the big man hit a three. Arizona State's team was just too dominant as they had a blowout win, with Yerpman leading the way for his team, while Yerpis was virtually non-existent for his team. At the end of their first regular season, the boys had fantastic freshman years, really living up to the preseason All-American hype, with both players even leading their teams to some fantastic records as Arizona State came into the tournament as a 2 seed and Grambling would make the NIT tournament at 24-9. Yerpis would lead his Grambling team to a nice run in the NIT, but would eventually fall short to Dayton. Meanwhile, Yerp and Arizona State were on a run of their own as they reached the Sweet 16 before falling to Stanford. While neither player was able to lead their teams to a national championship in their freshman season, they were able to win some awards, as Yerpman from Arizona State won the Player of the Year and the Big Man of the Year award as a freshman, while Yerpis from Grambling would go on to win the Mid-Major Player of the Year and the Defensive Player of the Year award as a point guard and a freshman. Both players would make first-team All-American, freshman All-American, and first-team All-Conference for their respective conferences, while also winning both conference awards for their respective conferences. And Yerp the center would have the edge in the National Freshman of the Year award.
Here's the next group of teams.
Expectations were sky high for Yerp and his team, as Arizona State came in as the 10th ranked team, and both players would be preseason All-Americans once again. Both teams were making big improvements in year 2, with Grambling beating big schools along the way, and Arizona State making a case for an undefeated season, up until this game against Pacific. After simming through year 2, we'll see much of the same, as both players are just dominating the rest of college basketball, with Yerpis averaging a double-double with 33 points and 10 rebounds per game as a point guard, and Yerp the center averaging 27 and 6. This would cause both teams to end up making the tournament this year, with Grambling being an 11th seed in the South region, finishing at 22 and 6, while Arizona State will come in as a 3 seed in the West region, finishing at 21 and 9. And I thought this could be a chance for them to meet in the tournament, and that was until Arizona State was upset in the very first round. Meanwhile, Yerpis and Grambling would get a few upsets of their own and make their way all the way to the Sweet 16 before falling to Duke. And to my surprise, neither player ends up winning the Player of the Year award, although Yerpis would bring home another mid-major and Defensive Player of the Year. But Yerp would bring home nothing. But once you start looking at the numbers and compare the two, Yerpis was absolutely snubbed for Player of the Year. Leave a comment down below if you think so too. Preseason All-American and Arizona State opening the year ranked 10 is a guarantee at this point. Year 3 was off to a hot start as both teams won their preseason tournaments and ended up meeting each other in the next round of the tournament. This will be the first time they've met since year 1. Only difference is this time, the teams are pretty evenly matched. This should be a game for the ages. Neither Yerp or Yerpis were able to get anything cooking to open up the game once again, only hitting some shots here and there. But hey, at least you saw the big man shoot a 3. And with neither team's star players showing up, we would head into half in a very close game, with Grambling leading 33-32. Coming out of the half, Yerpman would start heating up with this bucket, and this would lead Arizona State to go on a big run and take the lead. And with that, there was no looking back after this. Arizona State going for a dominating win once again, 83-58. And after once again dominating through the regular season, we would eventually see both teams ranked at the same time for the very first time. Although sadly, Yerpes and Grambling would have a late season collapse and fall out of the tournament. As for Europe and Arizona State, they would go on to secure their first number one seed in school history. Arizona State would start their journey to the championship with some pretty easy and blowout wins against Lafayette and Stanford. Then Yerpman will put up a monstrous 40-point game to lead his team into the Elite Eight for the first time. This time against the number 2 seeded Georgetown, where Yerp and the boys would end up falling short by just 1 point behind Yerp's abysmal 8-point performance. Georgetown would go on to win the national championship, but for the first time, we had a player sweep every major award, with Yerpman winning the Player of the Year, Defensive Player, and the Big Man of the Year award all in the same season. Meanwhile, Yerpes would only take home his usual Mid-Major Player of the Year award. And that brings us to their senior and final year in college, which has Yerp and crew opening the year ranked number 6. Both players do have great supporting cast around them for their senior years, so there really shouldn't be any hiccups or excuses for either team this season. And with this being their final season in college, of course I had them play one last time, guaranteed. Seemed like this year was going to be much of the same. Neither player is really putting the team on their back, which once again brings us to another close game at the half. Arizona State leading 34-33. Yerpes and his crew keep things close deep into the second half with good defense and transition offense, just like this sequence right here. And with just under 5 minutes left in the game, Grambling was really making a case to win this game. After never looking back from that point on, Grambling would go on to win 70-65 against number 10 ranked Arizona State, giving Yerpes the point guard his first career win against Yerpes center. With Arizona State finishing the regular season as the number 3 ranked team, they would come in as a 1 seed in the South region once again. Meanwhile, after losing their conference tournament in the championship game, Yerpes and Grambling will be playing in the playing game, where they would play Washington and end up losing. Yerpes, the point guard's career, is over. Yerp and Arizona State will coast right into the Elite Eight once again, before falling to the 3-seeded Michigan State, ending Yerp the center's career. Yerp would end his career with his second consecutive sweep on all major awards, bringing his total to 3 Player of the Year awards, 3 Big Man of the Year awards, and 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. While Yerpes, the point guard, would win 4 Mid-Major Player of the Year awards and 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards. In conclusion, I believe that while these 99 overalls put up some insane stats, sometimes it never really showed up when it mattered most. I didn't really want to play a game with one of them, knowing how overpowered I would be. However, I made sure to do the recruiting for the first 3 years, and I was adjusting minutes to ensure they were always playing 40 a game, and even doing pep talks. But in the end, they were never able to win the big dance.